Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry, and tonight, or rather today, depending on when you're watching this, I'm going to have a little talk about the upcoming Bloodsword tactical role-playing game from Prime Games, the same team who adapted the Fabled Lands series for the computer. As you may be aware, I did a full playthrough of the original Fabled Lands series on my channel a while back, and I enjoyed playing it a lot. In fact, I've enjoyed the series since I first stumbled across book 3 when I was about 14 or 15, many years ago, back when I was still at school. And this has probably been in the works for some time. And some of you might have asked, some of you might be asking, hey Raph, how long have you known about this? And I would have to say, about 2 or 3 years ago, someone, not me, posted on the Steam forums for Fabled Lands, asking the developer if he would be interested in tackling the Bloodsword series. And the developer did respond, stating that yes, he would be interested in tackling the Bloodsword series after he's finished Fabled Lands. So I have known for at least that long that it was a possibility. Now, there was only one more mention of Fabled Lands on the forum in the 2 or 3 years since that first message, and beyond that, nothing until the announcement. So this has been public knowledge for the last few weeks, and I gotta say, I'm looking forwards to it. I hope it is a quality adaptation, but I fully understand that some things will need to be adapted. There are various issues, such as the dungeon in Book 1 having a map with layout that differs depending on which route you take and doesn't quite make sense. There are 2 paths that look identical, and the implication being they are the same portion of a dungeon, whereas actually it would seem they are not, and it's a bit fiddly to try and make any sense out of it, especially as both of them end up in the same room, but it is not mentioned as having multiple entrances and exits. I actually did a map to try and make sense of that a while ago, and I'm not the only person. There's numerous maps trying to make sense of that dungeon, one of which doesn't try to follow the original, but rather to adapt it into an entertaining manner that would be enjoyable for the players. And I'd say that's a reasonable adaptation, so it'll be interesting to see what Prime Games does with this. Additionally, we have some information, and I'd like to go over that. Now, I should have probably mentioned this when the game was first announced a few weeks ago, but it didn't quite feel right, and I was quite deep in something else at the time, so I held off. And then there was a update from the developer excitedly claiming that, oh look, we've got over 1,000 wish lists on Steam for first week. Within a week, the game got 1,026 wish lists compared to the 430 wish listings for Fabled Lands within a week of its announcement, right? So that's pretty good. The first update is pretty short. The developer shares his love for the series, and honestly, as long as he doesn't completely mess it up, I think he'll do well here. I mean, I don't know what will happen with the dungeon in the first book. There's a possibility the 5th book might get a bit of a rework, particularly the ending, because the original authors were never entirely happy with the way the 5th book turned out in the end. Fair enough, it's their creative vision, and we fully respect that. However, the second update includes more juicy information, so I'm going to take a look at that now. Here we are. A class spotlight on the Enchanter, and we have this gorgeous artwork here. Let's just get a... Okay, can we get a bigger look at that? We can. Excellent. Male and female enchanter. So enchanter and enchantress. The enchanter looking very much like Ezran from Pathfinder. Not a problem. He still looks awesome all the same. And let's have a little read through of this, shall we? In the north, along the savage coasts of Mercania and Fuland, magic is primal and raw. The shamans and rune mages there call themselves elementalists, harnessing fire and water and darkness through sheer force of will. They are respected or feared as tricksters, spirit binders, and storm callers. Those who dare to wield darkness are reviled, cursed with spiritual penalties known as geases. Oh no, it's not geas, is it? That's a mispronunciation. It's geysers. It's a Celtic word, and you don't pronounce it the way it's spelt. A geyser, known as geysers for walking forbidden paths. A geyser is a kind of curse that is a compulsion that is placed upon you. It's not a curse in the traditional sense of something bad will happen to you. A geyser is like a restriction. It's you must always do this. You know, may your sword always stick in its sheath, or something like that, right? It's not... No, may your sword always stick in its sheath would be a traditional curse. May you always hesitate to draw your sword would be a geyser, right? And generally it's a punishment for something that you've done. Like, say you were babysitting and you did really badly, and the parents were very upset with you. One of them might lay a geyser on you of, may you never care truly for children. So it relates to the thing that causes the curse to be placed on you. But not all magicians are wild sorcerers of the north. Across the civilized lands of legend, magic is studied, codified, and bound into parchment. These magicians are sorcerers, learned, methodical, and always left-handed by tradition. They master scrollcraft, alchemy, enchanted items, and attuned wands. A seasoned sorcerer may enter battle with a belt of potions, a book of spells, and a wand humming with latent power. Skill trees and new design philosophy. That's right. All of the character classes will be getting skill trees. In Bloodsword, these two magical lineages converge, a major departure from the books. The enchanter now evolves through the skill tree, choosing whether to follow the raw, instinctive power of the elementalist, or the structured arcana of the sorcerer. Rather than locking story interactions behind class choice, spells and special options now depend on what you've actually invested in. Acquire the right passives and you might call lightning, brew healing drafts, or inscribe your own scrolls. To balance this, you'll find synergy nodes woven into the combat trees, opened by powerful interactions between your spellcasting and martial abilities. Your enchanter is not just a caster, but a customizable arcane archetype. Here's a glimpse of the arcane mystery tree. We don't have names on these, but just listing here. Mystic Focus. Raise your psychic ability. I'm seeing 2 of 2 here and 0 of 2 here, so that could be Mystic Focus, implying you can take it multiple times. Arcane Precision. Improve spellcasting reliability. Would that be the eye? Could it be one of these? I'm not sure. You probably won't be a lot of that. There's some kind of goblin or troll here with lots of tiny little people terrified of it. Stormcaller's Will. Extend and electrify lightning spells. This one. Infernal Pyromancy. Amplify fire spells and ignite enemies. Presumably one of these. Arcane Supremacy. Cast with unmatched precision, or even auto-succeed. Sounds similar to Arcane Precision. So that could be those two, or this one and something else down there. Many eyes here. Your magic doesn't just grow stronger, it adapts to your decisions, shaping itself around your tactics and past synergy. Why am I splitting or mixing the enchanter like this? This is not exactly mixing or splitting, more like layering. I'm taking the enchanter from the books and building specialization paths on top of it, like the elementalist and sorcerer traditions from Dragon Warriors, the role-playing game, from the same duo behind the Bloodsword gamebook series. Both are set in the same dark medieval world of legend. You won't be able to max out everything, so you'll have to choose where to focus. Some spells, like Summon Faltin or Prediction, are now tied to skill tree passives instead of just your class, and story checks look for specific abilities rather than just are you an enchanter. It's a shift, but one that gives more agency and lets players build the kind of caster they imagine. In future we'll have class updates on the warrior, the sage and the trickster, each with their own specialization, but I want to come back to this for a moment, because when I saw this I wondered, is this the only class tree the enchanter will have access to? Or will there be more options? So I had a little chat with a developer, and he explained that every hero will have access to all the skill trees from all the classes, and they can spend their points as they wish. However, most of the options on every skill tree will have requirements that will be very hard for members of another class to meet. Therefore, a character will end up spending quite a few of their skill points in their own class skill tree, and they can spend some points in other class skill trees, but they can't really fully specialize in another class. They will have to put, some points in their main class, essentially. So if you wanted your sage to have some trickster abilities, you probably could. Likewise, if you wanted your trickster to be a little bit of an enchanter, or your warrior to have some sage abilities, you could dabble a bit. But you wouldn't be able to just fully pretend to be another character class. That would be very difficult. Another thing that interests me is Raise Psychic Ability Mystic Focus is probably an outright stat improvement, right? Now, that's intriguing, because in the original books, obviously the enchanter had the highest psychic ability, with the sage having the second highest and the trickster and warrior having the lowest. And the ability scores would raise over the course of the campaign as the characters go up in levels. And having the option to have stat increases on the skill tree is intriguing, because it's a way for one of those characters who doesn't have a very high psychic ability to invest a few points in the enchanter skill tree and raise their magical defense. Likewise, if the enchanter wanted to go to the warrior skill tree and improve his fighting prowess, he probably could as well. All of these things are available, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It also means that most of the class checks in the book, which ask, are you this class, are you that class, will rather be a check to see if you have certain things on a skill tree, or even just how many points you've invested in the one skill tree, which is most likely to be your own natural one. And that is interesting. One of these looks like the divination spell, gotta say. Summon Faltin could be that, although that doesn't make much sense. It could be this. Hard to say. But it's intriguing and interesting. Personally, I look forward to seeing what comes of this game, and it seems quite a few of you are interested as well, so good for you all. I think I'll be following the development, sharing what news I can, and if I'm fortunate enough to have another little chat with the developer at some point, maybe even sharing a little bit of information, such as the sharing of skill trees and how characters might get to split points. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed this one, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the next Bloodsword update at some point in the future. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye for now, and see you all soon.